It's the beginning of the last quote-unquote workday of a long week. Woo! You're exhausted, tired, worn out from being intentional and wringing every last drop of productivity out of the week. Or so I hope so. Maybe you're thinking, I cannot wait for the weekend and TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday. Stop. Don't do that. It's time to finish strong. Get your mind right and finish. It's not about how you start the week, the month, or the year. True top performers know how to finish. So listen. Listen to this short clip and get your headspace leveled up and go finish strong. This is Finish Strong Fridays.
Welcome to another episode of Finish Strong Fridays. We're talking about systems of beliefs and identity today. Behind every system of actions are a system of beliefs. For example, the system of democracy is founded on beliefs like freedom, majority rule, and social equality. The system of a dictatorship has a very different set of beliefs like absolute authority and strict obedience. You can imagine many ways to try to get people to vote in a democracy, but such behavior would never get off the ground in a dictatorship. That's not the identity of the system. Voting is a behavior that is impossible under that certain set of beliefs. Now, a similar pattern exists, whether we are discussing individuals, organizations, or even societies. There are a set of beliefs and assumptions that shape that system, an identity behind the habits. Behavior that is incongruent with yourself will not last. Today, we're all talking about identity. We're talking about the identity that you have as an individual. We're less worried with the society and with organizations, but you can apply this to those types of systems as well. What I'm more focused on is your identity. It's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led to your past behavior. You have a new goal and a new plan, but you haven't changed who you are. And so you will fail. You will fail until your identity changes, until you accept the reality that you need to become someone else, a better version of yourself, before you can stick to a new habit and achieve that new goal. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes a part of your identity. Look, it's one thing to say that I'm the type of person who wants this, and it's very different to say that I'm the type of person who is this. True behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation that you want to create something or achieve something, but the only reason that you're actually going to stick with it is that it becomes a part of your identity. Anybody can convince themselves to visit the gym or eat healthy once or twice, but if you don't shift that belief behind the behavior, then it's hard to stick with those long-term changes. Improvements are only temporary until they become a part of who you are. So, I've been talking a lot about goals and the fact that goals aren't necessarily what you should be focused on. Systems are what you should be focused on. And we'll talk about that in another episode. But right now, let's just figure out how to use that notion. So the goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician. So how can you apply that to your own life? The goal is not to have one act of patience, but it is to become a patient person. The goal is not to become someone who only periodically focuses on discipline, but it is to become a temperate and a disciplined person. You want to become those, adopt that identity. That's what you're focused on. The more deeply a thought or action is tied to your identity, the more difficult it is to change it. It can feel comfortable to believe what your culture believes. That's group identity. Or to do what upholds your self-image. That's your personal identity, even if it's wrong. I remember back in grade school, maybe it was high school, we had this poster. It was all about what is popular is not always right. What is right is not always popular. That's always stuck with me. The biggest barrier to positive change at any level is identity conflict. Good habits can make rational sense, but if they conflict with your identity, you will fail to put them into action. Over the long run, the real reason you fail to stick with your habits is your self-image gets in the way. This is why you can't get too attached to one version of your identity. Progress requires unlearning. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continuously edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. So if you've had trouble recently sticking to a goal, it was probably March before you'll hear this. But if you had a New Year's resolution and you're having a hard time sticking to it, it's because you did not shift your identity. You attempted to do something that you did not have deep enough ties or beliefs about, and that's why it didn't happen. So go back and start to believe. You can use affirmations. You can actually do the thing that will create that belief. Start to believe that you are a person of health, not just someone who goes and works out. Believe you are a person that has financial literacy, not someone who just doesn't buy everything that they want once or twice. You have to become the person that you are attempting to become. You have to adopt the identity. So today and every day, if you're struggling with something, either changing it or starting it, stop focusing on the results. Start focusing on the process of becoming and changing your own identity, and watch your willpower go through the roof and go get some. Hey compressors, if something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.